Legend of the Yggdrasil Bow. I don't know what page number I'm on. Oh well. The fight lasted an hour with many hits between us. I walked back to the camp, my shoulders throbbing. I didn't even hear the commander asking what happened. I only found out later that the other guy had come back already. I hit the cot and fell asleep fast. The next day, the camps were brought together as one and more patrols arrived. Soon the little camp of 25 grew into a little outpost of 60 men. We each were given jobs. For the most part, I did what I was told. My thoughts, though, returned to the clearing and Selena. The next night, I didn't go out. It was a new moon, and we were getting more platoons added. While the reports didn't say the Amazons were increasing, the numbers weren't decreasing either. I welcomed the increase in men at the camp. It let me sneak out easier. I didn't pay attention to the increase. My mind was on the clearing. During the day, I asked some of the older recruits to train me. That was on top of everything else we had to do. That night, the moon was a sliver in its waxing crescent phase. I hid my crystal under my breastplate and headed for the forest. I only took it out when I hit the edge. As I reached the clearing, I saw the princess with another woman. This is my sister, Julian. She'll watch our fight and can treat any of our wounds. Here she threw his sword at my feet. We will fight until first blood is drawn. However, no lethal strikes. We can't bring back the dead. A simple nod and the fight was on. After an hour of back and forth, Julian stepped in to stop the fight. It seems, princess, that this man is your equal. We are sitting, waiting for our second wind to start the fight again when Selena and Julian stood up. Prince Woodcrest, Selena spoke. If you can meet me at the edge of the forest, my mom, Queen Jenna, wants to have a conference with your king. It will take a day for her to get here. She'll be waiting at our camp for word that the king has arrived. Wait, can I see you again? Selena smiled. Remember this clearing. I'll be waiting, she said, putting her hand in mine, and then vanished into the forest. I reached the camp, went to the commander's tent. I need to speak to my father, the king. The queen of the Amazons, Jenna, wishes to talk to him. She'll be here in a day. Where did you come by this information? The commander asked. Princess Selena. She is the one I've been seeing in the forest. I was hoping that I could follow her. And learn more about the Amazon camp. Instead, I learned that they were as good as we are with swords, maybe better with a staff. If this escalates, we could lose, though the Amazons are not here to fight. So, you fought her? How did it go? I lost the first fight, drew the next two. The last fight, though, lasted an hour without a hit. Good. If you can hold your own, then maybe we stand a chance if it comes down to that. The next day, me and a few men headed to the castle. The city and Nightfair back in those days were more of a town. Nightfair had a few brick houses, but mostly wooden. There were some tents as well. It took 5 days to get there from that small border town. I told my father everything that happened between me and your mother, Selena. Now, Irene, your mother and I at this time weren't... Now, Irene, your mother and I only tested our sword skills together. My father was disappointed in me. He told me that I was lucky to be alive, that I was reckless and foolish, but since I've had a rapport with the princess, I had an obligation to be an ambassador to the Amazons. I had no choice, but agreed. Not that I had any objections, of course. After a few days in the castle, the king's escort was ready. We were decked out in all armor, the king's flag flying high on the poles carried by the flag bearers. The king was in the middle, surrounded by 6 knights. I was following right behind my father, trumpets blaring, flags waving. A whole parade led us out of town. A few of the carts followed up behind. 5 days later, we arrived at the small town. A feast was prepared. Roasted hog, fish, edible mushrooms, nuts, fruits, anything the forest could give. The men were braver during the daytime. They were told not to engage unless provoked. So far, no major skirmishes had broken out, though a few came back with bumps, mostly chasing deer through the forest. At least that's what they said. A large tent was set up for the meeting between my father and the queen, Jenna. I was escorted by 2 knights to the edge of the forest, but persuaded them to stay behind. I'm sure they didn't like that. But Selena had only seen me during our mock fights. I entered the forest. I knew that Selena wouldn't be at the clearing, but headed that way anyway. I didn't know where else to go. I got to the clearing, and there she was. Hair as black as moonless night, skin as white as a ghost. And she turned around. Her eyes sparkled as the sea after a raging storm. "Selena," I said, my legs shaking as I said it. This was the first time seeing her in the day, and she took my breath away. Smiling, Selena said, "My Amazons told me you returned with an entourage. How did you convince the king to come?" After taking a moment to compose myself, I said I asked and told him the queen wants to negotiate. Selena nodded. "Wait by the forest entrance. I'll be by her side, as well as a small group of warriors. She'll see you and 2 others. Meet us in 3 hours. That's what I have so far. Hope you enjoyed."